Hello there, welcome to this next tutorial. I'm going to show you an alternate method for segmenting your Tibetan source text. This time we're going to use a Tibetan word tokenizer and then run a Python script that will segment it, pre-segment the text for us. This will involve using some command lines, but before I scare you away, I'd just like to mention that I've already run this whole script on the eKangyur. That is the eKangyur is based on the Dege, and posted it in a Google Drive. So if you are working on a eKangyur text, you don't need to run the script. You can just access the text there from the link in the notes, and you can watch this video to I'll show you how to set it up. And then after that, I will, in case you're working on a text that isn't in the Kangyur or from an OCR or something like that, I'll show you how to run this script yourself. So yeah, let's get started. A little introduction to the script. This was developed by the good folks at Esukhia. Shout out goes to them, and Drup Chen for making this CATscripts repository. And it basically, it doesn't have much explanation here, but it the word tokenizer identifies verbs and kind of some of the grammar within the Tibetan, and then on the basis of that, it can create segmentation. And typically, it's in kind of the beginning stages right now, so it's not perfect, but it does it tends to be able to locate all the conjugated verbs that are, and then also the following, the conjugated verb that comes out at the end of a sentence or phrase, and the following particle, whether it be, typically it just uses the hlakje, a conditional na, or a completion particle, a dzogtsik, and then it creates segmentation based on that. So for this example, I'm going to use Tohoku 65. It's a text I'm working on. And you can, when you extract the file, there'll be a big folder like this, and it contains all the Kangyur texts by volume number. And then you can extract your own file into a text file like this. And actually, the first thing before I load it into Omega T, I'm just going to get a sample of it so that I can set it up initially. If the segmentation isn't set up in Omega T initially, it will just cause the whole program to crash, because it'll try to put everything into one segment. So what I usually do is just grab like a page and then make a sample text. And then, so I'm just pasting in like the first page of my text here, and then I'll save it. And then when we open Omega T, yeah, it's put it all into one segment, but we can set it up and then load the whole text. So, so I've actually used an underscore character to identify the segmentation created by the script. It initially actually creates a line break, but there's some problems with Omega T. There's some problems with the merge split script. So if you want to further edit the segmentation as you go. The line breaks don't really work very well. They sometimes won't allow you to merge under certain conditions. So I'm using just an underscore character because this is a character I can remove with a search and replace in the TMX file, and when I finish the translation. And it's not one that I typically use in English translation, so I'm not worried about deleting the ones in the English target. However, if you are concerned about that, you can use kind of whatever character you want. Use something more distinctive, like a $sign or something like this. But I like, or you could use a double underscore if you're worried about underscores being used somewhere in the English. Whatever you pick is fine. I find the underscore kind of less obtrusive and easy to work with. So, so to set up the segmentation, we'll just go to Properties and Segmentation, and then we'll add a new language code. We'll just call we'll make sure it's Tibetan, so you want to put the BO code. I'll use capitals since that seems to be what it uses. And we'll call this, just call this Tibetan CATscript. And then we'll add a pattern, and this is going to be a break, so we'll check it. And it's really simple. We'll just, the pattern before will be an underscore. You can't really see it there, but I entered an underscore. And then the pattern after is just, you can just put a single period, which means anything other than a line break. And that should work fine. And then you'll hit OK, and it will reload the project. And you can see it's broken it into 13 segments based on these underscores. And then if you want to merge, you can still merge them with the script I showed you in an earlier video. And you can also split in the same way. And so those both work fine along with this method. So it's looking good. So I'll go ahead and paste in the whole thing into the source. So I'll delete my sample and I'll drop in this whole text. We'll go to reload. And as you can see, it's made 500 or so segments. So as you can see, it's not totally perfect. Sometimes there's some really big chunks. Sometimes there's really small ones. Like this is a complete phrase, but it's really short and kind of part of a series. But it gets us into a nice starting point with our segmentation, because we know these are going to be complete phrases for the most part, and for the bigger ones we can just work on them in one piece or kind of break them down as we go. So this is a really helpful method, and hopefully the Drupchen and the folks at Esukhia will improve upon the script a bit, and it'll be even better. So I think this works a little better than the method of just using the shays, because as we know, shays can be kind of pretty arbitrary in Tibetan. So I recommend giving it a try, and yeah. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to run the script yourself. So the first thing to do is go to Esukhia's GitHub repository for this CATscripts repository. I'll give you the link in the notes, and you can clone or download. You just go to this main page and click the clone or download button. If you're familiar with GitHub, you can clone it, but otherwise, if you just click on download as zip, it'll be a zipped folder. You can extract that and run the script from there. When you extract the folder, it'll look like this CATscripts one. And it looks like this. Here is the Python script. You just double click it to run the script, and you just drop your text files in here. So I have this toku65. This is a text file I haven't scripted yet. Just to show you this example. And then we'll run the script here in a second. But before we can run the script, we need to make sure we have everything installed in order to run the script. So the first thing we need to install is Python. If you have looked at some of my other tutorials, I think I stepped you through installing Python, but I'll leave a link to the main Python page in the notes. Just go ahead and download the latest installer and install Python on your machine. By the way, I'm using Windows 10, and I'm certain that this works in Linux as well. I'm not totally sure about Mac OS. You should give it a try, but if it doesn't work, you may need to run it, at least run the setup and run the script on another machine or in a virtual box or something like that. But it might work, so you should give it a try. Anyways, and then the other two things you need to install, it doesn't just work on Python alone. It relies on this word tokenizer, because it's actually the word tokenizer is actually going to identify the verbs and the parts of speech. So here's the repository for Pybo. You actually don't need to download it from there, because what we need to do is install Pybo. Pybo is the kind of the main scripts, and then the other one is called botok, and that's the tokenizer. So we need to install both of those from a command line. So to do that, you just on the Windows, you can search for the terminal in the command bar, just and command prompt should come up. And you can open the command line like this. And then once you should have Python installed in advance, so go ahead and, if you haven't done that yet, go install Python. And then the latest versions of Python should come with the pip3 installer. And so to install botok and Pybo, you just say install Pybo and then hit enter. But there is a issue right now in that they've been updating Pybo and botok, but they haven't updated the CATscripts in a while. So fortunately, they're not compatible. There's some issues with it. I left an issue on this on the repository about it. So maybe, hopefully they'll. Oops, not that one. It was in the CATscripts. So I listed this as an issue. Maybe hopefully they'll fix it at some point. But as it says here, I'm certain, I know for sure that these versions of Pybo and botok work with the script perfectly. So as long as you install those, it should work fine. So to install a specific addition version, you use two equal signs, and then you put the version, which is 0.6.5, and then you'll hit enter, and that should install it. Then do the same thing for botok, but use 0.6.9. I'll list this all in the notes. And if you think you have a different version installed, you can just run the pip uninstall and then install it again. And then make sure you install these versions, because these ones for sure work with the script. So once those are installed, you can close the command line. And then the script should be all set up to work fine. You'll just drop your text file in there, and then you'll double click, and then it will, it does some processing, but it's usually really fast. And then it'll create the new file, the scripted file, right next to the other one, and it adds this Pybo extension right here. And so if you take a look, it goes through and it creates the segmentation with line breaks. And so as I mentioned, I don't really like the line breaks because they have some issues with omega t, and in general I've noticed with other cat tools that I've tried out as well, line breaks don't work very well for the segmentation. So like I suggested, I'm going to use underscores. So I'm going to edit this with Atom. I've actually been liking Atom a bit better than Notepad++, but they both work fine for this process. So the regex for a line break here is the R is the carriage return, and the N is a new line. And then I'm just replacing with the underscore. Replace all. And then, yeah, this is the same as the file I showed you at the beginning of the video. All the segments are represented with all the breaks are represented with a single underscore character. So we can save that, and then we just drop the file into our omega t project folder in the source folder. And then in the same way I showed you before, you can run, you can set up the segmentation and begin translating. And so that's another method. Hopefully it'll be improved a bit in the time to come. It would be nice if a lot of people take interest in this. We could maybe there's a way we could set up a simple website or something to host the script, so you could just do it in an import-export without having to do installing Python and the command lines and all that. But for now, I just wanted to show you this. If you're working on the eKangyur, just go ahead and grab that from the Google Drive. It should all be set up. And yeah, happy translating. One thing I might mention about, there was one other issue with this script, and maybe this will get fixed soon, but I mentioned it here in the issues. It occasionally shaves off the final shay after a hlakche. When it creates a segment or line break, some bug in the script will sometimes lose that shay, which it isn't all too frequent, and I don't think it's really an issue. It's pretty self-evident that it's still a hlakche, and so I don't think it creates any. It's that problematic, but I just wanted to give you a fair warning that that is the case. I don't think the TMs won't be exactly perfect, but they'll be totally fine for working in Omega T, and hopefully this will get fixed at some point soon, and we can and we don't have to worry about that. But just wanted to mention that. And yeah, if you have any questions, please leave them in the notes. Hopefully more videos to come. Thanks.